Fix my credit in Wichita, Kansas. Let's talk about that today. But before we get into that, I want to make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, do all those kind of things that is appropriate for these channels. Hopefully this is useful and beneficial for you. And I really want you to think about who can benefit from this information and share this with them either personally or send them the link and have them go check it out. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into fixing your credit. And I think the most important thing you got to understand with fixing your credit is how the heck does credit even work in the first place? So let me get to some of my visuals that I can show you, so that way it'll help you understand a little more what we're dealing with here. So first thing we're going to get into is breaking down your FICO score, your credit score, and looking at what things do matter when it comes to your credit score and some different things you can do to make sure that this credit score does get up there. So first thing you want to look at is the amounts owed as far as what's owed. So like if you're starting out brand new and you're zero and you don't owe anything, that's not a good sign because you don't have anything that's owed. What they're really trying to assess here in your credit score is how good of a payer of debt are you? How well do you pay your debts? How well do you use debt in order for us to give you more debt? If you don't have any small debt, they're not going to give you any large debt, i.e. a house. So if you're looking at buying a house, you want to start planning for this and working on this way ahead of time so that you're in the best position possible financially and mentally and emotionally to do this. So large piece of that is the amounts owed. You never want to max out your credit lines, but you do want to use your credit lines, because if you have them but you don't use them, that isn't showing any use of anything, which is the other biggest factor in this is your payment history. 35% is your payment history. Do you pay on time? Do you pay it off in full? What's that look like? And you want to have, months and years of this shown on everything, of not missing payments, making your payments, utilizing anywhere from 30 to 50% of your credit is what you're looking at. So like amounts owed and payments. So basically you're saying, do you have debt and are you paying your debts? So you don't want to be debtless, as much as Dave Ramsey and some of these other financial advisors want you to believe. You do need to use debt in your life if you want to get ahead. There is such a thing as smart debt. It's just that you have to practice self-control, self-discipline, managing your finances, managing yourself, your priorities, your emotions, and being on top of that stuff, which I get it. I know as human beings, we're not the best at that, and that can be hard to do. But this is really what credit is evaluating and giving you a score on, is how well do you pay your debt, essentially. How well do you use debt and pay your debt? Because if you don't use it, that's not really a good indicator of future behavior of doing it. Because if you haven't used it before, you're likely to not use it well in the future. So payment history, one of the things you want to do, like I know when I was first starting out, one of my cousins gave me the advice of, you want to have like 3 lines of credit for a year or more that will really get your credit going. Because when I first started, I didn't have any credit. So in college, as I was getting ready to graduate, I went and opened up a credit card. Or no, that's right. My dad opened a credit card, put my name on it as the co-signer. He used it, paid it off every month so that I could start getting that attributed to my name, even though my dad was paying for it. That's something that any of you can do for your parents or your kids, or ask your parents to do something like that. Obviously, your parents got to have good discipline to pay that off for you. Otherwise, they're kind of putting you in a worse situation. But that's one little trick that you have there. Let's see, I'm trying to think what else I had. Like your cell phone bill, putting it on a credit card is a good one, because you use it and just pay it every month. Depending on what you can get approved for. You just have to be very careful with these credit cards and lines of credit that you have discipline, self-control, that you're not just swiping that card, funny money, just not paying attention to it. It's a very good practice and self-discipline to learn to build these things, these life habits, just in long term. The other thing that I did is I wanted to go buy like a laptop, like a nice Apple MacBook. I think it was $1,000 at the time, and Best Buy had 18 months, 0% interest financing, to where I could have just paid for that thing outright, the $1,000 or whatever it is. But I went ahead and decided to string that out and sign up for that program, even though I could make the monthly payments every month, and make it so it lasted over a year, so that I had a year's worth of credit history shown that I was making that payment. So that's a little trick that I used. Most people use technology. They use their phone, or they use, a laptop, to where that's something you could finance out, make the payments on it, and start establishing your credit on everything. Another one is obviously your car payment. A lot of people need to use a car, and that's usually where a lot of people start and/or go wrong. Is you need a car. You can always rent, but you're always going to need a car in order to travel around anymore. And making your car payment on time every month is a huge one. A lot of this comes down to self-control, self-discipline, making sure you're managing your finances, managing your money, that kind of thing. So like new credit isn't really going to affect it that much. Account mix isn't really going to affect it that much. Length of credit history, that is a little bit more significant, but it's still only 15%. What they're really primarily wanting to see is, do you use debt, and do you make your payments? That's 30 to 35%, or sorry, 60 to 65% of this. So 2/3 of this is that piece of it all. And then the longer you have that history going, so you're 65, you'd be 80% of it. So you're kind of seeing where your credit score comes from. Now that you understand it better, you kind of know how to do it. So once you get that one, then you want to look at, all right, what is a good credit score? I don't even know, like, once I read this stuff. So excellent, 740 to 850. Good is 630 to 739. Fair is like 520 to 630. Poor is 410 to 519. And then 300 to 409 is very bad. Honestly, like, you got to try to get that low, 300 to 409. It's kind of impressive if you're able to get that low, because you have to continually sign up for debt and not pay it. Because I think when you're brand new, don't have any credit, and you start out, you're right there in that 520 to 600 range, just based on the fact that you don't have any, you're middle of the road. You don't have any debt. You haven't showed you have any debt. Go get a credit card or like that laptop or a car payment, and you'll see your credit jump real fast into the 630 to 700 range, just because you signed up for some credit and you started making some payments on it. But again, that's my piece of advice, is get 3 lines of credit longer than a year. Don't fully utilize them, but make your payments on them once a month. Set a budget. I know budgets are like broccoli, but that's really what's going to get you ahead with doing all this stuff. Set your budget and stick to it, and just keep having a past track record of that behavior of success to get your credit where you need to. If you do need to repair your credit, I'll get into that here in a sec, with using our financial mortgage broker that we recommend. You can go onto her website and apply, and she'll help you fix your credit. If you need to fix your credit, I don't recommend hiring a service to do it, because all those things that they're doing for you, you can do yourself, just with a little bit of advice from us. Like, we don't charge from it. The lender doesn't charge for it. And most of the things is you just calling or disputing things or paying things off. And once Janie or I looked at your credit report, we can help you determine what your best course of action is. And the thing is, you might pay some things off, work on some things, but it takes months for these credit cycles to reflect and revolve like what's going on. Even if you started to make some credit repair fixes, it's going to take that long in order for this to have an effect. And just so you kind of know, as far as like purchasing a home, what you have options there. Your VA loan, you're looking at 620 minimum credit score. And again, this depends on the lender of how low they're willing to go. With VA loans, obviously you get no money down to mortgage insurance. You do have a little bit higher origination fees from the VA, and some other quote unquote hidden costs in there. It isn't a bad way to get in there with the loan, but you do have to have 620 minimum credit score. FHA loan is not a first-time home buyer's loan. FHA stands for Federal Housing Administration, and that just means the government backs what you're taking on as a loan and insures it. So if you do default, the government takes it back, not the original lender and debtor. And those are allowed to have a little bit lower credit score. I think one of the lowest in the industry is at 580. So if you do have a little bit lower credit score, it's giving you a chance with these FHA loans. You do have to put 3.5% down with these as a down payment. So on a $100,000 house, that'd be $3,500. But you do have to pay mortgage insurance on them as well. One of the other more affordable options too is a USDA loan. Their minimum credit score here is 600, but I believe that may be 640 now. Again, check with your personal lender, whichever one you're using, to give you better advice there. You don't have to have money down on these, but the property does have to qualify in the right area. It has to be in the right location in order for the property itself to qualify for USDA. And you'd be surprised what they consider rural and what they don't as far as what's an option, but it is one way to get into a house fairly affordably and get going on your path to home ownership. You do have to pay mortgage insurance on it, but those are some different loan types. There's also conventional loans. Conventional loans typically are about 640 is what your minimum credit score is for those. And you can go as low as 3% down on those. And you do have to pay mortgage insurance until you get to 20% equity within the house. You're pretty much always going to have to be paying that unless it's VA loan. And there's some companies lenders that'll tell you like, oh yeah, you don't have to pay mortgage insurance with us, but then you have a higher rate. So it's like nothing's for free. There's always a cost somewhere, but that's where we want you guys to work with us directly. We can show you all the ins and outs of the different tricks and perspectives of this financial industry and this real estate market industry. It's not quite as crazy when you start looking at how we break things down for you, make it a little more simple for you. What I'd recommend if you are looking to fix your credit or get approved for a home loan is go to janiecarr.com. She's a local Wichita mortgage broker here. She's been in the business for several years, double digit, and been in real estate for a long time. She started in title company when she was 18, and she's very knowledgeable on the process. But if you go to janiecarr.com like this, type it in, you'll see this page come up. You'll go to the Apply with Janie part. There's some other really good information on here about Janie and some different options like USDA was one that we were just mentioning, different blog posts. But if you click on this Apply with Janie piece, this is how her process works. If you follow this link, make sure you put Ben Meyer in there as the referral source, and you'll start an account and you'll go through and you fill all this stuff out. It's going to ask you a lot of the preliminary questions. Then once it's done, Janie will send you or me a pre-qual letter, or get on the phone and talk to you about like, hey, here's what's on your credit score. Here's what we need to fix, pay off a few of these things, and we'll be right there. It doesn't knock your credit score. It doesn't affect it on this, not like, car loans or anything like that. If you go start running your credit like 5-6 times with a bunch of different lenders, that's when it'll start to affect it. But applying once like this won't necessarily do that. It's just that typically when you go to like dealerships, they run it like 7 to 15 times, like through all these different things. And that's what knocks your score. So you don't have to worry about that going on here. There is some other information in there that it's going to ask you for, but the more detailed you can figure this out, the better. You don't necessarily have to put all the documents in at the end, but this is, in my opinion, the best way to figure out what your credit score is and what you're capable of is by going through this link, following this process, and just seeing exactly what we're dealing with. Give us a call or Janie a call, or we'll call you once you're done, and we'll work with you on what your credit score situation is. Because, I've been there. I know people have been there. It's not like a end of the world. You can fix it. You can get these things addressed so that you can get on the path to home ownership and get going from there. So hopefully you've learned a little bit more how credit works, how to fix your credit, things of that nature here locally in Wichita. If you got any further messages or you'd like direct consultation, go to my website, wichitahomehero.com, and we can start communicating that way. And also like, comment, subscribe, share. Please think of who could benefit from this. Hopefully you've learned a little bit more how credit works today as far as home loans and things like that. Appreciate watching as always, and we'll talk to you later. See ya.